which would be something like, for example, estimate the number of ping pong balls which could fit into its 10 sounds in very classical guesstimate. So what you need to do is with this question, they're not going to give you any dimensions of either the ball or the 10%. What you need to do is come up with educated assumptions and solve for this problem. And in this, you would need to be solving it in a specific way. That is what you're being tested on. I'll come to that later. But then based on the requirements of the problem, you would need to make educated cases and solve and give out in final number saying this is the number of balls that's fit in 10% or whatever is the parallel for the given problem. So a guesstimate is basically summarizing is just it's a mathematical outcome to an estimate which you need to make educated and logical cases for. So this is guesstimate occurrence. And the second one is basically a profitability case. So a profitability case is basically what is very similar. It's exactly what it says. So there's a client of yours who's trying to have a problem with their profit sorted or the revenue or cost sorted. So this again has a specific framework as such. But then it doesn't last more than like 5 minutes into the case. So after that, you would need to improvise, and that's where your practice in cases comes in. And you would need to drill down. Basically, what you need to do is drill down, find the root cause of the problem, and then come up with suggestions to improve the problem. So that's where the profitability case. So usually speaking, any case interview lasts for a maximum about 45 minutes. So this is profitability case. And then when you go to market entry is basically a client or a business trying to enter a new market. So market as in it can be defined in two different ways. One is entering a new product market in the sense that, for example, let's say Jio. Jio was a crude company, basically, like importing crude, refining things. It was largely a petroleum company. And when they opened Jio, it was out of their expertise. They're launching an completely new product, but it's the same market, which is basically by region, it is India. They're not going to launch it somewhere else. But at the same time, when you talk about something like in Vodafone, which comes in from Britain to India, in terms of the region is different, but the product is the same. So market entry can basically be different in the sense that one can be by market, one and the other way can be by market. I mean the product and the region. So what you are required to do is you require to form a strategy using which the client or the business problem in hand is able to enter the new market of its interest, given that its objective is being met. Again, this has some help initially in the first 3 cases that you practice, you can take help from framework. But then after that, you let on your own to form your own framework and to solve it the best way it suits you and also correctly. And the fourth type of case is unconventional case. It's not a type of case actually, but then it's something that doesn't fit into the box of an guesstimate profitability problem or a market entry problem. So it's basically somewhere you don't have a framework that you can get inspiration from. So you're required to form your own frameworks, and questions can be very vague in the sense that it can be something like, okay, tell me how to make IIT Madras in the GC next year. This is an unconventional case. So you need to again follow a specific set of specific rules.
Indian,
yeah.
Hi, sorry. Okay, some people have texted me that they are not being able to hear your voice. I have gotten 3-4 texts. So I think you've pretty much explained. What I'm going to do is I'm going to summarize what Indian is saying. What Indian has said. Just to be sure, Rohan, AKT, Ravala, can someone confirm at least my voice is clear, right?
Yeah.
Yes, your voice is clear, Ayush.
Thank you. Thank you. So basically what a case interview is, it's trying to test the business acumen of a student along with his structured thought process, basically his ability to solve a client's problem. A combination of these three things is being tested in a case interview. There are 4 types of cases that are asked in a case interview generally. The first one is a guesstimate. A guesstimate is nothing but it's an educated guess or an educated estimate. What I mean by what Indian meant by saying educated is that, let's say I ask you, hey, can you tell me the number of, let's say, red Honda cities that are there in your car, in your city. So you can't just say, hey, I think there would be something around 100. That's a guess. But an educated guess would be, ki, yeah, there are certain number of, there are this many number of cars in my city. This fraction of this would belong to Honda. This fraction would actually be Honda City. And of that, this fraction would be red in color. So you calculate your way out, you show a structured process, and that is an educated guess. And this is something they are trying to gauge when asking a guesstimate. The second type of a case is profitability. So profitability case is basically your client comes to you and he says that, hey, my profitability has been declining for the last, let's say, 3-4 months. What do I do? Can you help me out? And here you kind of try to figure out where exactly is the problem. Has the cost increased? Has the revenue declined? What is the real problem behind the profitability declining? You figure that out in a very structured manner. There's a profitability framework. You follow it, you figure that out, and then you kind of understand, okay, this is where the real problem was, and here are my recommendations. Similarly, in a market entry, let's say your client is a London-based education tech company, edtech company, who wants to enter India. So what are you going to do? Are you going to say, hey, yeah, like India may, in the last 1 year, the edtech market has been booming, it should definitely enter. So no, that's not how you do it. Again, you follow a particular framework, either a defined one or you define your own framework. Depending on the specifics of the client, then you determine whether that client coming to India will actually be beneficial to him or not. So this is something that they are trying to gauge. Lastly, there are unconventional cases that generally do not have any fixed framework in any book as such. So I heard one of my seniors saying that he was asked, how will you help Prime Minister Narendra Modi in helping India recover their economy in, let's say, the next 5 years? So you can't just say, yeah, let's say I'll just fix all the hospitals, I'll give more salary to the doctors. You can't just say anything. There is a proper structure that you need to follow. And this, again, as I said, is something they're trying to gauge. Structure, thought process is the key. And solving cases is going to help you develop that structured thought process, no matter what interview you're sitting for. It doesn't matter if you're sitting for consult, FMCG, finance, or data analytics. Problem solving is what the companies want, especially from IITians. So yeah, I think we can move on to the next question now.
Hey, I just a little bit of add-on. So on what is being tested is basically what I'd like to just briefly say is three things. One is being very logical in your approach. And the second is, as I was told, is being structured and the way you solve the problem. And the third is effectively communicating what you're thinking and your problem solving. Even if you're right, if you're being very logical and structured, right? If you're not able to communicate it effectively, it's going to be, and the interview is not going to be as good. So remember these three. It's logical thinking, structured solving, and also effective communication. These three will get you good points in your case. And of course, quant and other things that you need to get right are things that just needs to be there. It's either right or wrong, but these three are subjective and you need to perform really good on the three. That's it.
Yeah, just to add on one more point to what Indian said. Yes, structured thinking and logical approach is the most important. And this is especially more important when the problem is something that you have no idea about. Like being a student, we don't have experience of working in some particular industry or solving that problem before. So when presented with a completely new problem, how well do you structure it, and how well do you how can you put a logical approach and solve those problems, irrespective of what the problem is? That is what they're mainly looking for in the case interview. So, yeah.
Great. So I think by now you must have gotten a fair idea about what you'll be tested upon in your interviews. So moving on, you must have heard that, yeah, case solving is done preferably in a case group. But how do I form a case group? Should it only be with my friends? Should I go outside, step out of my comfort zone and find new people? What exactly should happen? How do I form a case group? And once I enter the case group, how do I go about my prep? Should I only practice with them or should I practice individually as well? So Ravla will be helping us decode all of these problems. Over to you, Ravla.
Okay. So how do you form a case group? I think before that, maybe I should explain what a case group is. So a case group is basically a group of people trying to improve their performance in case interviews together by learning and improving each other's performances, giving feedback to each other, and practicing with each other. Right. So that is basically what a case group is. What you generally do in a case group is you solve cases with each other, where one person takes the role of an interviewer, other person takes the role of the interviewee, and then you solve the case and you share feedback and try to improve on how you're performing. Okay. And why it's important is because you need practice, right? You can't learn how to do a case interview by books or through videos. Any number of resources that you follow, I don't think you'll be able to develop it by yourself. You will have to practice more and more to become better at case solving. Okay. Coming to how do you form a case group, I would say I was thinking of this a lot. A lot of people had also asked me recently. So basically, I would say there are 4 things that you can look at. Most important, according to me, again, this priority order is my opinion. Others are welcome to share their opinion. So based on priority orders, what I'm saying is the first most important thing that you need to look for in a case group is how comfortable you are giving and sharing feedback with a bunch of people, how comfortable you are sharing your entire preparation journey with them, your highs, your lows, everything. There are some cases that you'll completely bomb. There are some cases you'll do well, but you want to know how to improve further. And you don't want to be in a case group with someone that you feel you're not comfortable with. So I think that would be the most important in any case group. Apart from that, the other important thing is someone with a similar interest or preference order towards the companies that you're aiming for. So if you're forming a case group, ensure that all or most of the people in the case group have similar interests, similar level of passion towards case solving, or in general trying for the companies that basically open for basically consult companies. Or if you guys have different priorities, one thing I would say is if people have consult as a second priority, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. You can have a case group with people who have second priority as consult and keep doing case prep, because case prep helps you in general improve your interview experience and your communication skills. Okay, so after that, find someone. The third factor that I would say is have people in your case group who have a similar probability of getting shortlisted. I think all of you are aware about the process that most consulting firms that come to institute have. They have a resume shortlist, etc. So be sure that the case group, try your best to have the case group get the similar shortlist that you are getting. Okay, so because just in case a few of your case group does not get a shortlist, or you don't get a shortlist, your preferences might change. You might want to focus on some other companies, which is what you should do. You should, I think, if you don't get a shortlist, there's no point in spending as much time that you should ideally do in case prep, right? So that is the third thing. And another a fourth factor that you can also look into, and something that's very important in general while preparing for consulting interviews, is your network. Okay, so you might know a few seniors who are, let's say, placed in the firms that you want, or you have a few seniors who are already working there, or some contacts in any form. Okay, and try to get people with diverse networks. So let's say I was a part of Shastra Spons, so I have a few of my seniors from Shastra Spons who I know in different firms, right? If I can form a case group with someone from another background, let's say some particular Insti team or some other team or any other way, like basically someone with a good network which is not overlapping with your network. So if you can find other people who have diverse networks, what you get is you get different fundays, different resources, tips, and different cases from the seniors that you know, and your case group also, the people in your case group also get different resources and different ideas or fundays from their seniors, and then you can exchange, and then you grow better. You have much more. You have a better network basically, and network matters in consulting interviews and case prep in general. Okay, and coming to the second part, how do you go about your prep? First step, I think, is to make a case group. Then you basically start with some basic resources. Just start solving cases. Once you know what a case interview is, I can list a few resources if you want me to, Ayush.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, okay, sure. So some basic resource that I think most people follow just to understand how a case interview is and what happens in a case interview, all that. I think Victor Cheng's YouTube video playlist is there, which everyone starts off with. I think that's a very good primer on how a consulting interview generally is. After that, my suggestion again would be to start solving a few cases to just get comfortable with the idea of cases amongst your case group. So you keep solving cases with your case group until you're comfortable with most of the types of cases that Indian mentioned before. So once you're comfortable with most of the cases, then you move on to your next step. The next step would be you move on to different people apart from your case group, your peers who are not in your case group, and you feel that they might have a different way of solving, or someone that you feel is in general very smart and you would like to do a case with them. So do cases with them. If you know seniors, then do cases with seniors, because at that point you have brought your case solving level to some extent where they can give you feedback, where the seniors can give you better feedback to improve further than what your case group would be giving till then. Yeah. So after that, I think if you after the shortlist, I think you'll also have interaction sessions and networking sessions with people in the firm that you're shortlisted in, and definitely take the chance and do cases with them. They'll also, I think, allot you buddies. I think most consulting firms allot buddies. So do cases with those buddies as well, and I think that's enough. Anything else that AKT or Indian would want to add? Please.
Just one thing, Rahul. In the resources, Victor Cheng is definitely great. An alternative to that could be case interviews cracked video by IIT Bombay teams. So that is something that is like everyone they take in 1 hour session for each of the four. I think.
Oh yeah.
Like 1 hour and other 1 hour. You can use that also as an alternative. Yes.
Great. So I think we can move on. And yeah, thank you. Here, get a very good chance of net.
Ayush, I don't think I can hear you.
It might be weak.
So having a diverse group. Okay. Now.
Your voice is breaking a bit.
Hello.
Yeah. Better.
Yeah. Now. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. So I was just summarizing what Ravula said, that it's always better to have a diverse case group that will give you access to a larger network, and that will always be beneficial. And that's basically the first step of how to go about your prep. Then you move ahead, you can see Victor Cheng videos, you can see, as Indian mentioned, case interviews crack. That's something that's also included in Consult 101. And then what
Ayush, your voice went off again.
And then
Ayush, we lost you again.
Okay. I am so sorry for the cup. I have no idea what's happening. My net seems to be fine.
You're fine. You're fine now. Yeah. Continue.
Yeah, I'm so sorry, guys. I have no idea why this cup is happening, but I think we can move on. So, let's just move with AKT. So, yes. 1 second. Give me just 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So, AKT, what was your personal experience of case prep? And if given a chance, what would you want to change?
Okay, cool. Ayush, do you want to change the slides also, so that people can see the question? Okay. Meanwhile, I'll just start the answer, I guess. So the question is, what is
Yeah.
my case prep experience? Okay. So short answer, I had really good time doing case prep. Uh, I'd go into that later, but let's talk about the technical aspects of case prep, right? So I started doing case prep without really seriously considering sitting for consult. It was last summer. I finished my intern. I was confident of getting a PPO. Then Rola pings me one fine evening in July, I guess, and asks me if I want to do a case group, if I want to sit for consult. And I say probably not. But anyways, I joined because it sounded really fun, which I'm really glad I did. So as I kept doing cases, I realized that solving cases is actually a lot of fun. And I researched a little bit more about consult, what the industry is like, what the firms are like, and it felt like it's a good option than where I was interning at. So yeah, I decided to sit for placements at that point and not take my full time role at my previous firm. So this is my experience, but I think it's typically the case for a lot of people. At the beginning, you will be pretty intimidated. There will be a lot of types of cases. You don't know where to start. You don't know who to do the cases with. You don't know when to do the cases, etc. But anyways, you somehow start, and you like the frameworks you discussed earlier. You go through a few frameworks, watch a few YouTube videos, and you successfully mastered your primary or secondary school math concepts. Ki, okay, profits is revenue minus cost, revenue is quantity into price, and now you will be like, okay, fine, you'll be throwing up the formulas, like putting up some basic frameworks and solving cases. The first 10 to 15 cases, and your confidence will keep on building. You solve cases with your people from the case group who you're very comfortable with. Things will be great. After a point, when you're at the intermediate level, you start doing cases with your seniors or people who are a bit more experienced in case solving, and then you realize what case interviews are all about, right? You will no longer be able to apply the standard frameworks. You might have to create your own framework, and that is the point where your both case performance and the confidence keeps plummeting. You'll not know what to do. You will not. You'll have like a series of cases where you just bombed. So you go back, you look into what mistakes you've made, you understand what could have been done better, you would revise your previous cases, and discuss with people what are the places you are experiencing troubles. You try to understand where you're going wrong, you identify the patterns and try to work on them. And that I think is the most interesting phase. That is the phase that will kind of determine whether you will actually succeed, break your plateau and improve your case solving, or will you just give up. So that is very crucial. And that was also the phase I think I enjoyed the most, because I did a lot of fun cases, a lot of unconventional cases with the seniors. So after that, okay, then your case prep, you will no longer be bombing cases continuously. You will still bomb your cases once in a while. But then, yeah, you will, I think, be more happy after you do a certain number of cases. Your confidence keeps improving, and the goal is to ultimately reach your plateau by the time you're sitting for your interns or the placements. Just that you have to make sure your final plateau is at like the highest altitude possible. That's the whole struggle about. So that's my technical understanding of how my case prep was like. Other aspects, like I told that case prep is fun, right? Solving cases is actually a lot of fun. Now, it might not be very obvious to a lot of you who haven't really done any cases yet, but from my experience, uh, it's I think about the type of cases you keep getting, which are like really fun. But apart from that, even if it's not for consult, the most important asset case prep will give you is structured thinking. So that I think is very helpful in a lot of business interviews and all. So that was a good thing. And you obviously, your personality will change, especially if you're a person who is not very social. You develop your communication skills, and yeah, you also develop your presenting skills. So those are the things I think I definitely observed in myself over my 3 to 4 month prep of during my placements. What change? Okay, I probably wouldn't change much in my case prep process because it worked well for me. So technically, there won't be any changes. Probably, I'll say I'll I shouldn't have probably fallen into the trap of that imposter syndrome, right? Everybody around you is like super smart. They're cracking cases that you cannot even like think about solving, and you start doubt yourself. Your confidence will go down and all, right? So just don't do that, because an important thing I realized is you don't have to be the smartest of the person in the room to crack a consult case interview and get your offer. So as long as you focus on yourself, improve your performance without bothering a lot about the buzzwords that get thrown at you from your, the people you're doing cases with, it should be fine. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Great. Yeah, that was nice. I hope I'm audible. I'm back.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Great. One sec.
Ayush, I think we can ask this question to, I think, others also, right? Indian and
Yeah, actually.
Yeah, I
this is
was
like a
coming to
general
this.
question.
Nope. I was coming to this. So yeah, Ravala, can you share your personal experience and if there was anything you would want to change?
Okay. So I think my personal experience also was very similar to AKT, the same that he said. Like we went through it together. We were in the same case group. So we had our own highs and lows. We had that same thing, that confidence kept increasing, and then after a point, when you start doing the difficult ones, that's where you have to make your own framework. I won't call it difficult now. I would just call it different. So that's when you have to make your own framework, and your whole book approach or whatever you were solving with case books before, and whatever your book approaches are, they get thrown out of the window. Then you start panicking. But I think as long as you take some time and stick to the fundamentals, I think it's fine. You can get through that. Coming to what I would change, maybe like I would not focus on the book solution or looking at different YouTube videos where people have solved cases. I used to see those and get intimidated. I would be like, okay, is this what is expected? Is the book solution what is expected in a case interview by an ideal candidate? And I don't know. I just keep missing the mark somewhere every time. So you don't need to be perfect. That is, I think, something very important. You need to be good enough. You don't need to nail every single aspect. You need to nail most of the aspects, and that is more than enough for you to convert that interview.
Wow, that was actually a very good point. That is not only applicable in a case interview, but I think at this point, if you keep in your mind, it will help you in every damn interview that you give.
Yeah. Also, it's more so in a case interview because the solutions to case interviews seem very logical, and it doesn't seem too far-fetched for us. Once you read the solution, you just can't think of it during the interview. So you used to feel, okay, this is probably what they expect with a ideal consulting candidate, that you have to nail every single aspect of the interview. It's not so.
Great. Wow, that was some nice advice. We can move on to Indian, can you share your personal experience?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, I thought lacking confidence during preparation was only me. Now I hear Krishna and Ravala say I completely relate to it. Especially when you reach the plateau, right? Now, I didn't believe this thing where there's a plateau and all. How can it happen to all 40 people who are preparing? It might not happen and all that. And it hit me like a couple of weeks before my final interview. So at that point, retaining your confidence is really crucial because I've never seen people who were underconfident when they went into an interview, get an offer, and come back out. It's never the case. You need to trust the process. You need to trust the preparation that you put in the last 2 months or 4 months, and just say, I'm just going to enjoy case solving. And you need to genuinely enjoy, like Krishna was saying, case solving to actually come out with it. You go in confident and you enjoy the process. I'm definitely sure, like you will be giving your best during the process and come out with positively and offer. And the other thing I'd definitely like to add is this is one advice that I got from a senior. Every time we get onto a case group meet, what we do is we try to discuss an industry, business models of different industries, be it like the telecom industry, be it the media industry, or be it even the food delivery industry. What this does is it gives you a great, like because you're not business graduates at the end of the day, it gives you a great idea of how things work in different industries. And I was able to implement it in a couple of my cases that I did even in my interview. So I definitely recommend people to take on one industry, see how the profits are coming, see what the costs are of the industry, and you can get this easily on the internet. It's not a very hard to get. It takes 30 minutes of research for every group session, but then it proves to be useful at one point. Yeah, that's it.
Yeah, that was actually very good advice again. Trust the process, enjoy case solving, and that will definitely lead you somewhere. So yeah, good advice. Moving on, we these are some of the general doubts that a lot of you had pinged me. So I thought it's actually good to cover them here in a session. Meanwhile, if you have any other doubts, please feel free to put them in the chat box. In fact, after these general doubts, we're gonna open the floor for you to ask questions, so you can reserve it for that time or put it in the chat box right now.
Ayush, it's not working. The chat box is not working, I guess. It's apparently open only to team members.
Really? Okay. I haven't set any team members, so I don't know. Fine.
You
You
can do
can just
maybe like create a Google form or something, put in the group. If anyone has doubts, I can put there.
yeah, we can do
Yes, that.
definitely do that.
Hmm.
Yeah. Cool.
Or just open the WhatsApp group to everyone,
Yeah, if you're
and
comfortable.
they can just put messages via WhatsApp. I think.
Yeah.
Great. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Rohan, can you open the WhatsApp group to everyone?
Sure.
Yeah. Guys, please feel free to put any question, any silliest of the doubts you have,
Yeah.
just put it. Make use of this opportunity. So moving on to some general doubts. Inian, is there any ideal number of
Ayush,
cases to solve? Yes, yes, Puneet.
can you enable the chat?
I don't know why the chat is disabled now. So I don't even
I
know how
mean,
to enable it.
I mean, by default, it should be enabled for everyone. But again, I'm not sure what's happening over here. So
Exactly. Just
Like it's
put
showing
whatever
chat
doubt.
and channel is only available to team members.
Puneet, we'll look into this. Meanwhile, if you have any doubt, please put it in the group. Yeah,
yeah,
we'll
like
check into this. Yeah.
Right.
So
So you're asking me what is the ideal number of cases to solve
yes,
before.
moving on is ideal number of cases.
So again, this is a very subjective point. To be very honest. A lot of people uh, do different number of cases, majorly because there is a different use to it. That is, one is if you do a lot of cases, you will get very formal in the process, and there won't be any differentiation in the way you solve it. So there are one set of people who recommend you not to do too many cases, but do an ideal number of cases that you're comfortable with playing with the framework and coming up with different ways to solve for different questions. This is one. And then there is another group of people who are saying as many cases as you do, the more you expand your view of thinking, the view of looking at a problem, so you get better with it. Gradually, like every other thing that you do. So in these two, I really didn't like find one side. I found both the arguments compelling. So I didn't decide on a number of cases that I would do by the end of my case prep, but rather I did it according to my case group space. So I was part of two case groups, one with my friends and one with people who were not really like people I really talked to even before forming case group. So what I did is I did one uh, in total, I did 6 cases a week, which is like did in the sense I didn't do it. We were 3 people in each of the case groups, so we would do one case each per week. So eventually, I did 2 cases a week, and I sat through 6 cases, 2 mine and 4 others cases. So ideally, like this is something that you would need to decide upon, and I think like my take is the more number of cases you do, you are thinking matures with number of cases. So there's no right or wrong answers to it, but my view is that the more the cases you do, the more broad you're thinking. And I did like as many as I felt, as many as I could do to in order to feel confident for the interview. And this said, I didn't do any case for the last week, so it's just up to you to decide how confident you are. In the end of your preparation, the day before the interview, you should be able to confidently say that you can tackle what is coming up the next day, and you can leave as many cases or you can do as many cases as you want in order to be in that frame of mind.
So that's great. So yeah, you should solve as many number of cases as you can. That will definitely help your thinking become more structured and mature. But there's another school of thought here that the more cases you do, you can be a victim of overfitting. So when unconventional or some new case comes in the interview, you might actually not be able to think. Is that true?
Yeah, like I was saying, people do say that is something that can happen, but personally for me, like that is somewhere related to the plateau in the sense that the plateau you reach is basically the moment where you're not able to completely think out of the box, and that happens with most of the people. Like, so it's not like you can negate that by doing a number of cases. So I think like my perspective is uh, not quantity is not the most important, but rather what did you learn out of each of the cases. I revisit the cases that I do like a couple of weeks back also to see how different I could have thought through on that day. So just like for me, like because there's no answer, I would say like do as many cases as you're comfortable with. Don't force yourself. At any point when you're feeling really tired or you're not able to think very differently, I think you should just take a break and not rather fix on the number of cases you're doing. It should just be more of your confidence building. With every case you do, you should additionally build confidence. That is the key the to doing cases. Like if you think at any point of time you are not really thinking very different in each of the case and you're really bombing cases, at that point it's time to take a break irrespective of the number of cases you have done previously. So that's my take on it.
Great. That really helps. So just a one-line summary: do as many number of cases as possible. That will definitely increase your confidence, but don't over push, don't overstress yourself. That's the key. And focus more on quality than quantity. Whatever case you do, try to analyze it well, try to solve it in the best and most efficient way possible. So I think that's great. So moving on to Ravala, what is the differentiating factor? If everyone does the same prep, everyone is watching Victor Cheng, everyone is practicing cases from the same book. So what is the differentiating factor?
Yeah. So I think this is a very, very, very valid question. That what is the differentiating factor if everyone is doing the same prep? I'm going to not count shortlist in this. I'm going to take the case that assume everybody in this case is shortlisted. Okay. So now what happens is like there is the whole process of case prep, right? So there's different factors during the process, and there's different factors during the interview. So let's just focus, I think, for now only on the interview, because the process is a completely different thing. So in the interview, again, as we told before, not even if you do the same prep, you will. We are pretty sure that you wouldn't have solved the same case that the interviewer gives you. It's always going to be a new case. Okay, so as we I think told before, it depends on how you approach a completely new problem or or completely new case, and are you able to structure it, and are you able to put a logical answer to it, right? Apart from that, in general, what they see in a case interview is also the kind of questions that you ask. I think is something that also differentiates. You can kind of judge how logical someone is based on the kind of questions they ask to a completely new problem. If you're giving, I think Indian and DKT can relate. Like when we do an unconventional case, the questions that you ask make or break the case. The initial questions that you ask. So that is very important whenever there's a different kind of case that's been given. Apart from the structure, your communication, all of these, and all of this will vary on the interview date. Like, to be honest, if everyone has done the same prep and is at the similar level, in the end, it's about how you manage the interview how do you manage yourself during the interview. So the other factors that come into play here are confidence, how you interact with the interviewer, how interested are you in consulting, and do you share the passion for the work that the firm is doing. That is something that they really look for. These are the other, I would say, other factors apart from just the case prep that they look at. Right. I think, yeah, this is more or less it. It pretty much varies based on the final interview and what happens during the interview and how you can manage yourself that day. Also, another thing, the way case interviews are designed is taking this into factor. So, like, everyone has done the same prep, but maybe in one particular case you have no idea about that particular industry. and you are not able to perform to the same level. So there is, I think, no consulting firm stops with just one interview for their shortlisted candidates. They have minimum 2. Okay, so you have another chance to show that you basically just have to maximize the average performance in your case. So take that as what you have to do. It's fine if you slightly fumble in your one interview, or you were completely stumped with one particular interview. There are 2 other interviews as well. So 2 other or 1 other interview, depending on the firm that it is. So yeah, the consulting process itself takes care of this, and also there are other factors that I mentioned, like confidence, interest, passion, and all of this.
Great.
Yeah.
Great. That was totally on the spot. So, guys, please feel free to ask any question on the group. Like, don't hesitate. Yeah, some of you have pinged me personally. You can ask those questions on the group. It's totally fine. And I'll also cover them once after we ask this last question. So, AKT, should I even prep if I'm not sure of a shortlist?
Okay, fine. So firstly, let's start at this point. Now, I mean, even I don't know how exactly the shortlisting process will happen, because we never had any firm coming for interns, right? Like a proper consult firm. So I don't think most of the people will be able to figure out what their chances are of getting a shortlist, because it could be very different as compared to placements, or could even be the same. So that's one thing. And I mean, like, a recurring theme in this whole session is you've seen what are the advantages of solving cases, right? Apart from a consulting interview. And if I can put it in this way, I think case prep and consult prep could be 2 separate things. Case prep is a vital part of consult prep, but case prep has applications outside consult also. I think we've covered it most of the times, but if you want me to summarize it again, it helps you develop your communication skills. Okay, more importantly, it helps you think in a structured manner, that I think is going to be very helpful in all of your interviews. So the changes it will bring into your thought process, if I could quote an example, when I was preparing HR answers for my BCG interview, I did not think about it at the moment, but looking in retrospection, I think I actually put my HR answer also in a structured manner. I created like my dabbas, what are the important, and I think that's very important. But yeah, apart from consult, I think there are a lot of other business analyst roles and all, right? So I think it would make some sense. But okay, let's put it in this way, right? Should I do case prep? Now there are three important things you need to look into before deciding whether you have to do. One is, can you find time? Would you like it? And will it be helpful? These are like the 3 factors. Now we've already established it will be helpful in some or the other way. Now, will you like it is a very subjective thing. Few people hate case prep process. They would like to, not do any cases. They'll be just happy coding, which is also a good thing. Third is the time, right? See, I don't personally think case prep process would take a lot of your time also. Even if you do proper case prep, it shouldn't take more than a maximum of 8 to 10 hours a week. That's like the extreme, I think. People don't invest more time than that. But yeah, if you're someone who genuinely likes solving business problems, or even like figuring out or understanding a lot of businesses, different functions, industries, etc., you going researching about industries, that is a totally separate thing. So if you're someone who is interested in doing that, sure, I think all of this would be good. So that's I think pretty much about it.
Great, AKT. That was helpful. So there's a question on. Okay, someone has asked me personally this question right now. It's kind of related to what you have said. So you mentioned one of the factors in deciding if you should prep is whether you have time. So someone has asked me, do people usually do both consulting prep and quant/fin, or just one-sided?
See, I think it is pretty much possible to manage multiple preps, right? If I have not really seen a lot of people who do consult prep purely. That's, I think, going to be like extremely less percentage of people who are damn too confident that they will get a shortlist and they will get an offer. I don't think that will be the case with a lot of people. So it's not a question about can I, it is like you should. So yeah, I think it's definitely important. But yeah, like I mentioned, right, case prep, let's say you do a maximum of, say, giving and doing cases, maximum you do is like, say, 4 a week. That is like the maximum. And be efficient. It will not take more than an hour to complete the whole case, including the feedback. That is like 4 hours. Then if you want to like go discuss, like Indian mentioned, if you want to go discuss an industry with your case group or something, add 2 more hours. And if you want to discuss something with a senior, add 1 more hour. And uske baad, if you are serious about consult prep, go back to your previous cases, see if you can structure them better. Let's add 1 more hour. And what else can you do? Okay, let's add 2 more hours just because you waste some time in the whole thing. It's like 12 hours, right? I mean, just give up Netflix, watching Netflix for an hour or hour and a half a day, and you will still find plenty of time to do case prep.
Great. I think that clears it out. Whomsoever asked me. Next question. Hey Ayush, can you summarize what Ravula said about the differentiating factors? Ravula, can you summarize what you said about the differentiating factors in 1 or 2 lines?
Okay, so the differentiating factor, basically, first thing, if you're looking only at your case interview performance, there are multiple interviews for any shortlisted candidate, and you have to maximize your average performance across these cases. Okay, so that is what they're looking at. Even if you do one case too well or one case too bad, it's fine. You just have to maximize the average performance. And other factors that they look at, apart from just your case solving skills, is your in general confidence, your likability, and also how interested you are to join consulting, how interested you are to join that particular firm, and why you are interested. I think these are other factors that they look at to differentiate someone who's performed equally, I would say.
Great, that was fine. So there are a couple of questions on the group. How do I get my resume shortlisted? That's a very vague question. Would one of the mentors want to take it?
Okay. How do you get your resume shortlisted? I will say there's a portal. You upload your resume on your portal. The firm checks your resume and they let the IPR team know, sorry, intern team in this case, know the shortlist, and you will be informed whether you are in the shortlist or not. Yeah. So I think that's, if I directly answered the question. If I misinterpreted the question, whoever asked this question, I think can unmute and just clarify if this is what you wanted.
Okay. So yeah. Whomsoever has again asked this question on the group, see, there's no particular set of there's no procedure according to which resumes are shortlisted everywhere. If that's what you want to hear, if you want to hear about peaks and all, see, intern season may consult firms are coming for the first time. No one has any idea of what the criteria would be. In fact, even in placements, people just guess that he has 2 peaks, he'll get a shortlist. It doesn't work that way. So the best possible thing is you be prepared for a shortlist and you get your resume verified multiple times from your seniors, so that whenever a guy is checking your resume, it looks the best possible resume you can give. You should submit that. I think these are the only 2 things that you can do.
Yeah.
Rest depends on whatever criteria they have. What I've heard is they look for a complete personality on the resume. I've heard another hypothesis about the peak system, which you can find in our Consult 101 videos with Vamsi that I put in the group yesterday. There are multiple criterion I have heard about, and to be honest, no one is sure about what the actual criteria is. Right? Would you want to add anything here, AKT, Ravula, Indian?
Ayush, I think some people might not even know what's a case system. If that is covered in the interview that you took from Vamsi, I think they should go check that out.
Yes, you should definitely check out our video with Vamsi. It will help you give clarity about what the peak system is, and secondly, what exactly happens in management consulting as a career, and if you are a good fit.
Yeah.
So please do check
more
it
than
out.
what is the peak system. I think they should also understand why the peak system exists, right? So it does not mean someone who has a resume with 2 or 3 peaks is better than someone else's resume who does not have that many number of peaks, right? It's all subjective, and it serves a particular purpose in the consulting industry, which is why they might be looking for something like that. Okay, so they're just looking for excellence. I think this is what Vamsi also said. To summarize what Vamsi said, they're looking for excellence in a few fields. Right? It doesn't mean that someone who has done a lot of different things but has only one point in where they excel does not mean that their resume is not that good or something. It's just not a fit for what consulting firms want from that kind. I would say that. Don't think that one resume is better, so they are more stud, or that random FOMO that exists in most of the second year, third year Janta.
Yes.
An important thing is don't look at the resumes of people who start for placements and get intimidated because you all are sitting for interns and not placements. And a major chunk of my placement resume is something I've done during my 5th and 6th semesters. So yeah, just be aware of that, and don't expect your interview also has to look like one of ours.
Yeah. So what you can do, I think, I said, what you can do is maximize your potential of getting a shortlist, which is by properly making your resume, structure your resume, bring out, like, you will have a lot of, I think, resume fun days, I think, is covered in a separate session separately. I think it was covered many times. You can go through any of those fun days and make your resume in a way that maximizes your chances. That's the best thing you can do.
Great. So let's move on. I have another two to three questions here with me. So people are pinging me personally only. So again, feel free to do that as well. And we'll be wrapping in another 5 to 7 minutes. So whatever doubts you have, please send it to me right away. Let's move on to the next question. Someone has sent me. How would a normal session look like when you do solve a case with your case group? As in, let's say on a day, you get on call with your case group people. How would that call look like? Oh, that's actually a very good question. So just to answer this question particularly, we have recorded several guesstimates with our mentors, and we'll be releasing them on YouTube the next weekend. So that the way we have solved guesstimates in that YouTube video, you should definitely follow a similar procedure in your case groups. That's how it needs to be done. So you'll get the answer to your question next week. So again, stay tuned, do attend. Next question.
But I think let's give them a bit of starters, no?
Yeah.
So that if someone wants to start prepping this week.
Oh yeah. So I think again, people who have done case prep would answer better. So AKT.
So there are two modes in which people do cases. One is like the interviewer, interviewee, and the observer. So interviewer is basically the person who gives the question, gives the data that the candidate asks for, and guides the candidate throughout the whole case, right? Then interviewee, you already know what an interview is. And observer is basically a person who would just see, okay, how the interviewer is doing the case, how the interviewer is doing the case, and in the end help give feedback, right? His or her perspective on what could have been better, what could have been bad, whatever. So that is like one format, and the other is no observer, just interviewer and interviewee, and that worked out very good for us. And I never really had any observer for I think any of my cases except for one or two in the beginning. And in a case, so interviewer will come, he or she will give you the question, and everything will be formal, right? You communicate as if you are in the real interview. You don't use informal language. You don't treat them like your friends, okay? So give the question, you take some time to ask the preliminary questions, get whatever data is already available, ask for time to, structure your entire process, take like 30 seconds to 1 minute or even 1.5 minutes if it's a big question, something like that. Structure it, explain the structure, and with the help of your interviewer, make sure that, okay, everything, both of you are on the same page, start solving the case. A typical case, I think, okay, guesstimate will take shorter time, maybe like 15 minutes maximum. But a proper case, I think, would take any time between 20 minutes to 40 minutes. After that, you get the feedback. Feedback, I don't think will take more than 5 to 10 minutes. So that's like the general structure that is followed.
Great. So basically, you act like one of the person acts like an interviewer, one of the person acts like interviewee, and you try to replicate an interview room with a similar case given. You try to solve it, give a feedback, and then later assess what you could have done better. That's the best way. That's great.
One suggestion I think we can give is initially most people prefer to have some observer or spectator because you don't know how a case interview even looks like. You're being interviewee for the first time. Then an observer can potentially tell you where there were miscommunications happening or any different way that we need to improve while taking the interview also and while answering questions in general. So having an observer would probably help you in your first few cases. And I think Indian followed the 3-member case solving experience. So I think Indian also can add on more about that. Like we followed just 2 people having one interviewer and one interviewee without any spectators. But many people also follow having having a spectator.
Right. Like Prashant said, I think it's just that the observer, if there's an observer, they're just going to point out the mistakes or possibly like the case interview involves giving out data. Right? And when you're giving out data as an interviewer, you're still not a very seasoned interviewer. So I like Prashant said in the initial start, like let's say 5-10 cases, the interviewer doesn't know when to give out the data, and from wrong point of time when they give out the data, it might guide the interview into wrong position. So that's where the observer basically you can definitely go there and observe also in case it's just subjective to like how many people they want. 3-4 is also.
Great. And I think we can take one last question here. How do you play the role of an interviewer when you have no experience at all? Okay, so I think, see, you don't start practicing cases right from day one. As Ravula had already pointed out some sources, you would go watch Victor Ching videos and, kind of realize and get a feel of what exactly happens in a case interview. You can go on Case Interviews Crack channel and watch some mock cases. Similarly, we'll be uploading some YouTube videos. You can watch some mock cases. There are case books where the cases are given and the transcripts are given, like what the interviewer is saying, then what the interviewee would answer, then again what the interviewer asks. So, a transcript is also given in these famous case books. So you kind of realize what exactly happens, and then you try to replicate whatever you have absorbed through these resources into your case group whenever you're practicing. Do you want to add anything, mentors, anything? Or we can wrap?
I think one important thing a lot of people should realize is what is the mindset of the interviewer, right? So, see, in consulting interviews, generally the idea is that the interviewer and you are on the same team. You're supposed to work together to solve a problem. That is something a lot of people do not understand. See, in your real interview, the tone of your interviewer can be different. It could be very friendly or intimidating, but the intention is never to intimidate you to a point you will not be able to solve any further, right? Then interviewer has not done his job. So the same applies when you become a full-time consultant, right? As an associate, you are not expected to solve everything. Your partner is there all the time for you to help you solve the case, right? And you are supposed to take the mentorship from him or her, learn and apply that to your case solving. So that's, I think, a very important thing that you just have to know. It might not be very helpful for you in the initial days when you are an interviewer, but as you move along, you will know how exactly to take an interview.
That's great. So yeah, I think with that we can wrap.
Just one more thing. Also, when you say there are books and videos, there is some specific way of doing the cases. If you try to simulate that when you're solving cases, it need not go in the same way. The interviewee need not go in the same path, right? So you should not like stick rigidly to the book or the video transcripts, or you should not be like, oh, you should ask this question only next. Only then I'll have this data to give you. So don't be like that. Be a little bit open, be a little flexible. As AKT said, try together to solve the problem rather than forcing someone to stick to the structure or something that's given in the book.
Correct. Great. So with that, I think we can wrap our Q&A session. Moving on to the last segment of this live session. As we had promised, there will be some sort of a surprise that will help you in your preparation. So I think it's time to announce that. Ravula, AKT, go ahead. all yours.
Sure. So especially this time when 19 batch hasn't really interacted with a lot of people or seniors in institute, I think there will be a lot of knowledge gap for the 19 batch. Also, I mean, there has to be some sort of interaction with the seniors for you to kind of ask them fun days or try to do a case with them, right? For us, we had some contacts through through our Insta life. We had some contacts, but you guys had unfortunately a very sad Insta life till now, especially in 19 batch. So for that, just to ensure that this knowledge gap is kind of minimized, we have started a Discord server called Case Network. So where you can basically network with each other who are in the same boat as you. There are also a lot of seniors who got placed this year and who got placed before also, and more will be joining soon. So what you can do through this server, basically you can discuss any cases that you find in some book. Let's say you find you solve a case from a book and you'll be like, why can't this approach be used? This feels like a better approach. And your case group collectively has this problem. Then who do you approach? You either approach some senior or you approach someone else who's in the same boat. So this server aims to replicate your interaction with any seniors or with anyone in general, where you can discuss your cases, discuss approaches to cases, share resources that you felt were interesting, so that you can collectively learn and grow. In the future, once, as we mentioned, once you reach a particular level with your case group, you start doing cases with other people, including seniors and people, your peers who also are getting shortlisted. So you can also solve cases via this Discord group with each other. And coming to the seniors and how they'll interact, what we're planning is we'll mostly have a few sessions every week. There'll be either FAQ sessions or some doubt solving sessions, very interactive. We don't want to keep putting fun days because what you need right now is answers to your questions. So we'll have many more FAQ and doubt sessions, and also we'll try to put parts of a case and then ask you to solve it and then discuss on different approaches, and maybe we'll probably learn together along the way. So that's what we are planning. I'll share the link in the chat, and also I think, can we put it on the WhatsApp group also, Ayush?
Yes, I'll definitely put it.
So you can join this group and you can get started. It's pretty simple.
Great. So that will actually also help you in, sort of randomizing your prep, as Ravula had previously mentioned. You see someone who's very smart and you want to practice a case with him as well. So this will give you the opportunity to do so. So great. So I hope you like the surprise. I'll be sharing the link to that Discord server. Please do join it. I think it will be very beneficial for all your interviews. Again, not just consult, but all. Finally, let's talk about the next steps. I just have 3 simple points to mention here. A lot of you reached out to me with positive feedbacks, negative feedbacks, suggestions about our video with Vamsi. Thanks a lot, guys. It really meant a lot to us. Since we are also doing this for first time, we need to know whether we're on the right track or not. And since ultimately it's for you guys only, we need to know what are the shortcomings so that, we can deliver better in the future. So please do reach out to us with any sort of confusion, any feedback, anything, whatever you like, whatever you don't like, reach out to us. That will really help us curate content better. Secondly, so the next step is guesstimates. We are going to have a live guesstimate session next Sunday, again at 4 p.m. where our mentors are going to be solving guesstimates that were asked to them in their Bain BCG interviews, in their placements. So that will kind of give you an idea about what kind of guesstimates are actually asked. Prior to that, I'll be sharing the guesstimate video of Case Interview Cracked, where they have kind of, explained what a guesstimate is and how to approach. So we'll be sharing that with you. We'll be sharing a complete playlist with you where we have solved 4 to 5 guesstimates with our mentors that will help you to replicate a similar, interview environment within your case group. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to share. And please stay tuned prepare well. Reach out to us in case of any query. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you, mentors, for the amazing session. And yes, we can back now. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Thank you,
thank
Ravi.
you. Yeah. In case of any feedbacks for this today's session, you can always like DM either me or Ayush, or yeah, so that we
Or
can
any
like,
mentor as well.
yeah, exactly.
Okay. Where a lot of people hang out.
Cool, then
No clue.
I'll leave. Yeah. Thank you,
Yeah.
Ayush and
Yeah, it
Rohan,
was
for organizing.
no, like
Yeah,
thank you.
thank
Amazing.
you guys. Yeah, like it was really nice. Yeah.
Great.
Bye everyone. Bye. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.